Messi! It is the cleanest of clean finishes from the best on the planet.
It's time for the biggest sports stories.
Liverpool, the champions of Europe, are top of the world.
The biggest interviews.
That such a great spectacle is ruined by such thuggish behavior.
And all the analysis right here.
He's the one player that has the arrogance to think that he can play in any stadium in the world and any pitch in the world in front of any player in the world and take them on.
Every weekday, it's my sport, it's your sport. It's ZiFM Sport. Let's join the team for the biggest show in the world of sport on ZiFM Stereo. My station, your station.
Now, after a 100-day absence, Manchester City and Arsenal played out 101 minutes as football returned to England. Last night is the start of a frenetic 92 league game schedule, which will be packed into a frantic 40 days before the season concludes on the 26th of July. We are here to preview that session, this section of the Premier League in England. That is ZiFM Sport on a Thursday. It's a shortened show, but we're going to make sure that it's jam-packed, and the team to deliver it are Mike Madoda, Chris Gray, Alois Bunjira, our producer Sean Tafirinika, my name, Barry Manandi. Let's not waste any time. Let's get into it.
All the rivalry.
Here is Harry Kane for Tottenham. Oh, what a goal! A classic derby goal from Harry Kane. Catch him if you can.
All the stars.
Oh, back here's Liverpool 2 in front. Talk about impudence. Talk about improvisation. Talk about Sadio Mane.
And all the game-changing moments.
And Raheem Sterling rattles it home. And once more, City are in front in a trice.
All the updates from the Premier League on ZiFM Sport.
Now, after 3 months in which much of the world has embraced new gadgets and gizmos, there was much irony in football's big night being marred by technological failure. Whether Chris Wilder will see the funny side if the 2 points dropped as a result of the glaring goal line glitch cost his Sheffield United side a possible Champions League place remains to be seen, with another 24 points at stake in the Blades' quest to secure an incredible passage into the Champions League. Aston Villa goalkeeper Orjan Nyland clearly carried Oliver Norwood's 42nd minute free kick over the line and into the side netting, but the goal line centre failed to register it, much to the bemusement of United's players and the increasingly agitated Wilder on the touchline. Let's hear from Sheffield United manager Chris Wilder, who gives his thoughts on the technical errors that resulted in a clear goal not being given during his side's goalless draw at Aston Villa.
I think we all had the feel, both sets of players, both sets of staff. I think even speaking to the referee and Chris Kavanagh, who was the fourth official, he had the feel of a goal, and obviously quickly relayed back to us. I think the goalkeeper at the time, I think he was in the alt end when he caught it or dragged it back. Obviously, just listen to the statement you've given from Orkai. My issue is obviously of frustration. 7 cameras haven't picked it up. The most technical league in the world. Video analysis, pro zone, and everything that we see at every angle, and it hasn't seen a goal. And that's disappointing from our point of view. You know, we went to Tottenham last year, and I suppose it's nothing really to do with the timing of it. You know, John Lundstrom's big toe was offside, and I'm hanging around at White Hart Lane in the pouring rain for 10 minutes waiting for a decision. So I don't really understand why I couldn't have waited around for another 10 minutes in Birmingham when it was raining for another decision. But statements come out, unprecedented as they talk about, unbelievable. I did have a bit of a laugh and a joke. Would you believe today that, because we feel, well, like, imagine a lot of Premier League clubs have had decisions go against them, and we've had some pretty poor ones go against us. And I did say I won't bet against us, have it been the first one to go against us, and it certainly has this evening.
Now, I say this a lot on the show, Mike, and I'm going to say it again. How bizarre
Barry, absolutely bizarre. Bizarre that technology should fail in a moment that it's expected to work. And it's never failed before. It's always worked. Hawkeye has always delivered in these moments. And for me, Barry, it's a combination of three things. The referee, obviously, the man in the middle, Michael Oliver, who was famously described by Gianluigi Buffon as having a dustbin in the place of his heart. This time, he is not the man to blame because he depends on that little watch and the signal that he receives from Hawkeye. Now, the technology failed, so you can forgive him for that. But number two, Barry, VAR is in place to rectify clear and obvious errors, and the VAR protocol lists goals as one of the areas it looks at. So whilst Michael Oliver can be excused, what excuse is there for VAR? Because they should have picked this up. Everyone who was watching on TV around the world picked it up immediately, that it was a goal, that the ball was in the side netting, that the goalkeeper had performed a howler, that Sheffield United should have been 1-0 up. So if they had just taken a deep breath, paused for 10 seconds, all of 10 seconds, they would have been able to communicate the right decision to Michael Oliver. But everyone dithered in the moment. And therefore, we are now talking about this 2 points lost for Sheffield United, who could have climbed above Manchester United in the standings.
With the consequences of not qualifying for the Champions League, and if Sheffield United misses out by 2 points, the consequences of this dithering that Mike has coined dithering, Chris, are absolutely catastrophic. And I think Sheffield United could look back at this game if things don't go their way in the rest of this season and think to themselves, the refereeing world conspired to actually do them a serious disservice.
Definitely. And if you take a look at how close those teams are, the teams that are trying to get that Champions League qualification, every single point counts at this point. You can't have a situation where teams are slipping up. You can't have mistakes like this. I think the entire reason for VAR existing is to avoid this entire scenario. Yeah, and the fact that the technology failed in this scenario it's catastrophic. First of all, there are people who still don't have trust for the system. And this is another case in point where they'll point to and say, you know what, the system doesn't work. If in scenarios like this, it's not being effective. And then you have the explanation from Hawkeye where they say that the cameras were occluded by the goalkeeper, the defender, and the goalpost, which makes absolutely no sense because everyone could clearly see where the ball was and what was going on. So that explanation from Hawkeye is another... Obviously, they needed and they apologized in their statement, blah, blah, blah. But that apology doesn't give Sheffield United those 2 points that they deserve, and the 2 points that could cost them Champions League qualification.
Well, former referee Mark Clattenburg had this to say. He says VAR should have intervened and awarded Sheffield United a goal after Hawkeye malfunctioned. They had the chance to right the wrong and failed. This is a scandalous situation. Officials need to stop acting like robots and take ownership. Alois Bunjira, I know you're a student of the game and you'll remember the World Cup decision that ultimately led us to getting goal line technology where Frank Lampard hit a rocket, England versus Germany, and Manuel Neuer clean beaten. It hit the crossbar, bounced inside the net and then bounced out, and everyone on television could see that it was a goal. In that scenario, we forgave them because it was a line of sight. It was the referees on the field. Here, you have the referee on the field. You have the linesman. You have VAR who are watching the game. You have Hawkeye all in place. And add to that a fifth circumstance, which is the screen at the side of the pitch. If Michael Oliver was in any sort of doubt, he could have even gone to the screen at the side of the pitch. With all of that, Sheffield United still didn't get their goal, and I believe that Mark Clattenburg is right. Referees too much are acting like robots and acting inflexible, and that's not right.
Yeah, it's not right, Barry. We were all surprised. Watching the match, you could actually see the keeper staggering backwards and into the side netting. And I don't know why the referee couldn't see it. Very catastrophic, like Chris and Mike said. And the biggest blame, honestly, guys, is VAR. VAR is the biggest culprit here, because they are the ones that are watching on the screen. They are watching the match on the screen. And it was clear on the screen. If it was clear on us who are watching in Zimbabwe, what about those ones that are watching all those screens inside that room for that particular purpose? It doesn't make sense at all. And somebody, Chris talked about some camera blocking, whatever. But there was a camera that showed us the ball inside the net. So where was that angle in the first place? So we can't even start talking about that excuse. That is absurd, But the bottom line is VAR was not. I don't know what I should call. I'm not a very good fan of VAR, and when it happens like that, then I start crying. But at the end of the day, it's gonna cost Sheffield United 3 points. Those are 2 points dropped that they were not supposed to. They were supposed to collect. So I don't know how that one is dealt with. Maybe they need to actually call the guys in the VAR room and ask them why were they sleeping on the job.
Yeah, absolutely, Barry. And I think the one thing that it highlights, Barry, is how poor English match officials are. People have been having a dig at VAR, and I think it's important that we clarify that VAR itself is not bad. VAR itself as a system is actually excellent. It works, but the people who are interpreting VAR, who are the match officials in this case, are very poor. And English referees have proved themselves to be poor, because why are we seeing controversy after controversy in the English game? Yet when VAR was instituted in Italy, it had a few glitches, but as soon as it was up and running, it worked smoothly. Still is working smoothly. In Germany, it works smoothly. In Spain, it works smoothly. Why are those leagues able to implement it and have got it up and running fairly smoothly? Yes, it's got 1 or 2 glitches here and there, but in England, every match day, every weekend, every time there's football played, there's an issue around VAR. So VAR is not the problem here, Barry. It's the English match officials who can't use it. And Mark Clattenburg is right when he says that the officials need to stop acting like robots and take ownership there. Got to be proactive. Barry, you pointed to the fact that all they needed to do was say, guys, hang on. Yeah, Michael Oliver, delay the restart. We're going to have a look at this. That's all they need.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's all they needed to do.
And in truth, with the way that game played out, it was going to end 1-0 in favor of Sheffield United, as it is here on ZiFM Sport. The morning after, the evening after, the day after, we're reporting that it was a 0-0 draw. Points shared. Was it the correct decision? I certainly say no. Is it going to be overturned? No. Is it going to cost Sheffield United? We wait to see.
Well, we'll wait to see. The one result, Barry, that we all kind of knew was coming was the one that we saw in the second match that was played last night, where Arsenal's Brazilian defender David Luiz blamed himself for his team's 3-0 defeat at Manchester City last night, in which he was sent off in the 49th minute. Luiz, whose contract with the club runs out at the end of the month, came on as a 24th minute substitute for the injured Pablo Mari, but endured a dreadful night. The central defender was at fault for Raheem Sterling's opener just before the interval, and then gave away the penalty for the second goal 4 minutes after the restart. Not only did Luiz's mistake cost a goal, with Kevin De Bruyne scoring from the spot, but his expulsion for the foul on Riyad Mahrez left his team a man down for the remainder of the game. Let's get the post-match thoughts of Arsenal coach Mikel Arteta.
Yeah, everything went wrong from the first minutes when Granit got injured, and we had to change the plan a little bit. But every possible accident that could have happened, hopefully it happened today and not in the rest of the 10 games that we have ahead of us. I don't know. If they were muscular injuries, maybe yes, but these ones I don't think so.
David Luiz unfortunately had a night to forget. What's he said to you about the sending off, if anything?
No, he spoke in the dressing room. David is someone that is very honest and straightforward. I'm sure he will talk to you guys and explain his feelings. But my opinion on David doesn't change. The moment I joined, what he's done for the team, what he's done for me, it won't change because he had a difficult performance tonight.
Right, just a quick recap, just in case you didn't watch the match last night. Raheem Sterling capitalizing on the Brazilian's first mistake to score his first goal of the year and put City on their way to a comfortable 3-0 home victory. Kevin De Bruyne from the penalty, and then Phil Foden compounding the visitors' misery with a late third 3-0 comprehensive victory, Barry, but it doesn't quite tell the story of how the match evolved last night. I thought Arsenal looked decent in the first 25 minutes before that double injury and forced substitution.
Yeah, and that's exactly where the problem started, because if you look at it, I feel that with David Luiz and Mikel Arteta, perhaps it'll work in the long run. Mikel Arteta is still defending his man, but I think that in David Luiz and Mikel Arteta, you've got the classic scenario of old dogs and new tricks. And I believe that David Luiz is too set in his ways to being and conducting his defending in the old school manner. In other words, punting it up front. You could see that Arsenal was playing it from the back for the first 25 minutes. They had to make that injury-enforced substitution. David Luiz comes on. What's the first thing he does? He receives the ball and tries to put it behind the defensive line of Manchester City. And that already was emblematic of the fact that David Luiz is a square peg in a round hole.
Alois, those two substitutions that the Gunners had to make very early, bringing in David Luiz and also, having to lose their former skipper, Granit Xhaka, to injury. It just shows you that the two players that came in meant that Arsenal lost quality and also lost their rhythm. And it highlights differences in squads between Arsenal and Man City.
Yeah, I think it actually clearly showed that that's why they were on the bench. They are not as quality as the ones that were on the field. It showed. I was watching the match with my cousin here, and we were actually applauding. We were actually enjoying the match, because we didn't support any of the teams. We watched the first match, and then we watched the second match, and we could actually see the gap in play, the difference in the kind of play. The Arsenal Man City match started with a bang, the crisp passing. Both teams starting from the back, from the goalkeeper, passes inside. We were enjoying the game. It was like a ding-dong affair. We loved it. But then when there was that double substitution, like Barry said, suddenly Arsenal fell back. You could actually tell now they had no way to come out the way they were doing it before. Now David Luiz wanted to do those long balls. And remember, before the match, we talked about it, that David Luiz, even at first, Arteta's methods, he was confused. He got them a little bit later, but he kind of confused. He is not fitting in well with Arteta's method. I'm sorry to say, he doesn't fit in there. And he confuses everybody else, and his movement then blocks other holes, blocks other avenues, and it makes it difficult for Arsenal to play. I think that was the costly error, that he did, just unblocked everything, and just it made Arsenal fall into disarray. And from there onwards, there was no coming back, and Manchester City started dominating.
So it looks like David Luiz is a square peg in a round hole at Arsenal, a man who obviously doesn't fit into the methods of the new coach, Mikel Arteta, who prefers a passing game from the back. And David Luiz, our panel here, notably Barry and Alois, feeling that he doesn't have the composure or the ability to pass it out from the back, to pick out those passes and to build effectively from the back. Well, the good thing for Arsenal fans is that his contract is about to run out, so he's a guy that's likely to keep, according to the sentiments of those in studio. Now, Chris, let's just take a look at Arsenal and where do they go from here? Because it's beginning to look like Champions League football is a bridge too far. If they had won this game, they would have been right in the mix. They would have been fancying their chances. But it now looks like they may well be playing for nothing but pride and already starting to build on what they hope to do next season.
Absolutely. I think that's the direction they need to go in, is they now need to establish a firm direction for what they want to be able to achieve next season. I think this season for them, especially this first game, we've seen it generally how teams start at the coming back from the coronavirus break is generally how they carry on. And for Arsenal, I'm really afraid for them, those two injury substitutions, and then the way David Luiz was looking a little bit confused in the middle there. I think they need to start thinking about next season and the direction they want to go in. Some of their best players were absolutely invisible last night. Aubameyang probably touched the ball maybe 5 times the entire game. So I think they need to really consolidate and figure out what they'll be doing next season. I think the season for them is about to be wrapped up.
Barry, if there are any positives, their goalkeeper, Bert Leno, I thought he was absolutely fantastic. It could have been 3 or 4-0 at halftime, but he pulled off a string of really good saves to deny Man City initially.
Yeah, and Bernd Leno himself has some similarities in terms of his looks with Andre ter Stegen out at Barcelona, and in truth, last night he looked like ter Stegen more so than just by his looks. He looked fantastic, and yes, that is one of the positives that come out of this. And I would like to say there's another positive: those first 25 minutes. It looked like Mikel Arteta's methods are actually beginning to take root, and if they carry on this way, hopefully Arteta does something in the transfer window. Arsenal can only kick on. I'm sure he can't wait for a transfer window because he knows he needs to bring in quality.
Well, the one thing that resulted last night is that every team in the league has now played 29 matches. And how do things look? Liverpool leading the way. That gap is no longer 25. It's now 23 points. Man City in second, 60 points. Leicester is third on 53, 7 points behind Man City. And then Chelsea are a further 5 points behind Leicester City on 48 points in fourth place. Manchester United are in fifth, Sheffield United sixth, Wolves in seventh, and Tottenham Hotspur are in eighth place. Arsenal floundering in ninth. Occupying the relegation places are Norwich City, who are almost as good as gone, but then it gets really, really tight where any one of 5 clubs between Villa in 19th, Bournemouth in 18th, Watford in 17th, West Ham United in 16th, Brighton in 15th are separated by just 3 points as they look to stave off a relegation. It is the English Premier League. We build up to this weekend's fixtures.
Hi, I'm Warriors coach Zdravko Logarušić, and you are listening to ZiFM Sport.
Sports with a difference.
Your weekend fixtures: Norwich versus Southampton, Tottenham Hotspur will be up against Manchester United, Watford play at home to Leicester City, Brighton versus Arsenal, West Ham United versus Wolves, Bournemouth will be up against Crystal Palace, Newcastle will be taking on Sheffield United, Aston Villa versus Chelsea, and Everton will be up against Liverpool. So guys, that race for those 4 Champions League places is looking tight. I'm sure some people are praying Manchester City gets that ban and they don't actually make it into the Champions League. That'll allow an extra team in. But it's looking really tight, especially from Chelsea, Manchester United, Sheffield, Wolves, and Tottenham. Manchester United versus Tottenham this weekend, Mike. That's actually tomorrow on Friday, and that's going to be one of the key fixtures.
Yeah, absolutely. Huge game. Tottenham can't afford to lose it. United obviously are making the trip to London up against their former manager, Jose Mourinho. And this time I think Mourinho has got no excuses, little or no excuses at all, because he's got a full strength squad at his disposal. Because the one excuse that he's had ever since he joined Tottenham Hotspur is that he hasn't had all his players. And now he's got Harry Kane back, he's got Son back. Yes, Dele Alli has been suspended because of some shenanigans he had on social media, but he's got all his players and he's got no excuses. He's playing at home against a direct rival for Champions League qualification. So he's got to win this one, Tottenham. If they don't win this particular game, Spurs, I think I can safely count them out of the running for the Champions League.
On the other end of the table, Barry, Norwich is sitting pretty much in the relegation zone. They're right at the bottom, and I think at this point we can say goodbye to them. But just above them, Aston Villa, Bournemouth, Watford, and there's a lot of competition there. They can't afford to slip up in this scenario either.
Yeah, right up to Brighton. Hey, Brighton in 15th position. They aren't safe at all. As Mike said when he read out the league standings earlier, he talked about the fact that 3 points separate Brighton and Villa. That's from 15th to 19th. So it becomes absolutely critical that you get results. In truth, we talked earlier in the show about the catastrophic consequences of that draw for Sheffield United. But that 1 point for Aston Villa could be the difference between them staying in the league and being cut adrift. So they'll be certainly thankful that Michael Oliver and the VAR team was asleep at the wheel last night in their game against Sheffield United, and that point could be the difference. So it's very tight in their relegation zone. Also, the one benefit that those relegation threatened teams have is that there's no real home advantage for any team. So any one of those that faces like a Liverpool, where you're going to a raucous Anfield, you don't have that trepidation as much, so much so as if fans were in the stadium. So they've got to count their privileges and thank their lucky stars if they're able to take advantage of this closed period.
Alois, if we take a look at the teams that were kicking and screaming about this return to action, your Aston Villa, your Norwich, it's time for them to actually perform. And can they actually blame this return on possible relegation? Will they have that opportunity? Clearly, Aston Villa's play last night showing exactly why he didn't want this return to action.
Yeah, you can actually tell they were out of sorts. I was watching them and wondering how exactly are they going to survive. Very earlier on in the day yesterday, I was talking about the club having invested a lot of money and they were supposed to be playing better than they are playing right now. I saw it for myself that, with all this amount of money that was spent on this club, they deserve to be performing better. They should be performing better. But if they get relegated, I won't be surprised. I was only happy to actually see when Marvelous Nakamba came on. He tried to make them play. He should actually be playing week in, week out for that club, because he actually made them play. They started at least building up some few movements. He's a good player. I can tell you now. I'm not talking about it because he's Zimbabwean, but he is actually one of the best players in that squad. He showed it yesterday. I hope they do survive so that he can extend his stay in the Premier League without having to move. He's already comfortable, I should say. But the other club as well, Sheffield United, I thought that they didn't really exert themselves because they can do better. I have seen them playing better football than that. They could have beaten Aston Villa clear out, but unfortunately they didn't, and unfortunately for that goal incident as well. But for the rest of the clubs, I'm sure they deserve to be where they are. And out of the 6 teams that Mike mentioned fighting for relegation, any of the 2 can go down. I won't miss them.
You won't miss them at all, and in truth, and none of us will. Obviously, because of our interest in Aston Villa as Zimbabweans, we've got a soft spot for them. We'd want them to stay in the league. But I agree with you that Marvelous Nakamba certainly showed some of his quality last night. He's got to keep showing that because he may be looking for a job if they get cut adrift. So some of the teams can come knocking for him. It's now set in stone that Liverpool are going to have to beat Everton and then win their match next Wednesday for them to be crowned champions. And I think that is a foregone conclusion, but everything else still to play for in the English League, which makes it very exciting, doesn't it, man?
Absolutely. Everything exciting. And one of the exciting things, Barry, is the race for the Premier League Golden Boot. Where Mohamed Salah has won it 2 seasons running, and I'm putting money on him to do it again this season. He's 3 goals behind Jamie Vardy, but we know Salah tends to score goals in fits and bursts, 2s and 3s at times. And so that's why I fancy him. But it's fascinating. Jamie Vardy's got 19, Aubameyang has got 17, and then you've got Kun Aguero and Mohamed Salah on 16. Danny Ings is on 15, Marcus Rashford 14, Sadio Mane as well 14. He also shared that golden boot with Aubameyang and Salah last season. So fascinating race, that one. But if I have to put a flatter, it will be on the Egyptian king Mohamed Salah.
Mohamed Salah to come from behind and take all the spoils. We got to go. Our time is up here on the show. Thanks so much for joining us. Hopefully you enjoyed it. We enjoyed bringing it to you. We'll be back tomorrow for our weekend preview, which is, guess what? A proper weekend preview because there's so much action to look forward to. The full team will be here for your and our benefit. We'll see you then. May God richly bless you. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Manande, out.